Hey guys, welcome to Tech Brainiac. Today we will compare Poco M2 Pro and Realme Narzo 10. Let's begin. Starting with looks and feel of the two smartphones. Both the phones have a plastic back. Poco M2 Pro is 8.8mm thick, whereas Realme Narzo 10 is 9mm thick. Poco M2 Pro weighs 209 grams, whereas Realme Narzo 10 weighs 199 grams. Poco M2 Pro has tropical green, glacier white, interstellar gray color variants, and on the other side Realme Narzo 10 has that white, that green color variants. Since looks and feel of a smartphone is subjective, I will go for the Poco M2 Pro as it is less heavy and I like the way it looks and feels. Now let's move on to the displays of the phones. Poco M2 Pro has a IPS LCD panel, while Realme Narzo 10 has a IPS LCD panel. Poco M2 Pro has a 6.67-inch Full HD Plus panel with resolution of 1080x2400 and an aspect ratio of 20:9, while the Realme Narzo 10 has a 6.5-inch HD Plus panel with resolution of 720x1600 and an aspect ratio of 20:9. Poco M2 Pro has a pixel density of 395 and a refresh rate of 60 Hz, whereas Realme Narzo 10 has a pixel density of 269 and a refresh rate of 60 Hz. Poco M2 Pro comes with a punch-hole notch type with 84.5 screen-to-body ratio, while Realme Narzo 10 has a water droplet notch with 82.9 screen-to-body ratio. As display is concerned, I will go for the Poco M2 Pro. Now let's move on to the platforms of the devices. Poco M2 Pro runs on Android 10, MIUI 11, whereas Realme Narzo 10 runs on Android 10, Realme UI 1.0. Poco M2 Pro is powered by a Qualcomm SM7125 Snapdragon 720G 8nm octa-core chipset, whereas Realme Narzo 10 is powered by a MediaTek Helio G80 12nm octa-core chipset. Poco M2 Pro comes with 64 and 128GB storage variants, whereas Realme Narzo 10 comes with 128GB storage variants. Poco M2 Pro has a UFS 2.1 type storage, whereas Realme Narzo 10 has a eMMC 5.1 type storage. Poco M2 Pro has a 4 and 6GB RAM variants, whereas Realme Narzo 10 has a 4GB RAM variants. Poco M2 Pro has a SAR value of 1.138 watt per kilograms, whereas Realme Narzo 10 has a SAR value of 0.857 watt per kilograms. So clearly I will go for Poco M2 Pro when it comes to overall performance. Let's move to the cameras of the two smartphones. Poco M2 Pro has a rear camera setup of 48+8+5+2 megapixels. Whereas Realme Narzo 10 has a rear camera setup of 48+8+2+2 megapixels. Poco M2 Pro can record 4K at 30 fps, 1080p at 30, 60 and 120 fps, 720p at 960 fps from its rear camera. Whereas Realme Narzo 10 can record 1080p at 30 fps from its rear camera. Poco M2 Pro has a front camera of 16 megapixels. Whereas Realme Narzo 10 has a front camera of 16 megapixels. Poco M2 Pro can record 1080p at 30 and 120 fps from its front camera. Whereas Realme Narzo 10 can record 1080p at 30 fps from its front camera. Poco M2 Pro has gyro EIS stability and Realme Narzo 10 also has a gyro EIS. Both the phones have a pretty good camera setup, but Poco M2 Pro takes an extra edge over the camera comparison, so personally I would go for the Poco M2 Pro. Let's move to the batteries of the two phones. Poco M2 Pro has a 5000 mAh LiPo battery. Poco M2 Pro can last up to 1.5 days with average usage. Realme Narzo 10 has a 5000 mAh LiPo battery. Realme Narzo 10 can last up to 1.5 days with average usage. Poco M2 Pro comes with a 33-watt charger which can charge your phone in 2 hours. Realme Narzo 10 comes with an 18-watt charger which can charge your phone in 2 hours. So as long as battery life and charging time is concerned, Poco M2 Pro is a winner here. At the end, let's come to pricing of both the devices. Poco M2 Pro is priced at Rs 15,990 and Realme Narzo 10 is priced at Rs 12,490. That is all about the comparison. Both the devices are pretty good at their stands. However, if I am asked to choose one device after comparing all the aspects and the one that fits my daily needs, then I would choose Poco M2 Pro. Thanks for watching our video. Watch more of our videos to choose which phone to buy instead of wasting your money. See you in our next video.